my name is Jason Neubauer. I've had quite the journey leading into influencer marketing. Sorry, I'm trying to be able to click the next one for you. I'm hitting up. Oh, there we go. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 years old. I actually quit corporate America. I went on a game show. I won $32,695 playing Wheel of Fortune, and that kind of set off my journey to San Francisco and to go into startups. The first company I built was a peer-to-peer betting app called You Bet Me. So it was the easiest place where you could bet on your friends. Like, I've always really been obsessed with mass market consumer. That's all really I even know. Understand social theory and everything around that. And it went really great. Like, we got it to top 5 in sports, but the legalization was nowhere like in sight. It took me a long time to realize this, but like, I've never been wrong in my career, but I've been early. And it's important to like really trust your gut and understand that like you may be a little bit ahead where things are going, and it's always important to stay ahead of the curve. But so how did I get into influencer marketing? Well, I could tell you if I can get that. So it was interesting where my board member at the time started managing the first ever influencers that existed. So this is like really early Vine days. This was Cameron Greer, Nash Dallas, Bart Baker. There was really a core, about 8 to 12 of them, that controlled the market. And it was at this moment where they launched a pretty shitty game on the iTunes store, and they drove 1 million downloads organically to the App Store. And that was the moment where I knew like the entire industry was going to shift. And so for me, I had to make a business decision where I was like, I could take all the money I had in the bank and go on to paid advertising, or I can invest in these kids and white label our product and create something called Challenge. What was Challenge? It was basically the ice bucket challenge for everything. It was the first video app that essentially you could do a challenge video and people could respond to it. It worked. I mean, I took 19 of them to Hawaii and we launched this thing. I think we drove over like 500,000 downloads within like 3 days. And honestly, we grew too fast. But what I learned was, I understood that like this is where it was going with Gen Z, and the way that people look and viewed content was like completely different from what we normally do. And there's some really good case studies. Like, what we proved out is like brands really love UGC. The more that you can get UGC in whatever you're doing, whether it's your brand, the more that people feel connected. It's more like community, right? We had a case study with Fall Out Boy where they had they were doing their music video, Dance Like Uma Thurman. And so people all around submitted these videos, and they actually used them in their video. It was like a worldwide thing that they launched. The second one, the one that I was most proud of, is we partnered with a charity every single month. And it was the first time in my life that like I started to use distribution and influence for good. And so we partnered with Fuck Cancer, and everybody on there shared a story of their loved one who was taken by cancer and showed support, which is really cool. I think we ended up raising close to like $125,000 through that campaign. So, you know, for me, looking back, I can now see that was the spark in me that was leading to like my mission of bringing change in a positive way. So it was interesting. So after this, I kind of ended up becoming the guy in the space. Like, there was this Forbes article. It's like this veteran in influencer marketing. Like, influencer marketing was only around like a year. Like, nobody still really knew what it was yet and where it was going to go. Like, VCs weren't even investing at this time, like in the space. So I ended up moving to Miami, had a child, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life with this like newfound skill, but I saw that this is where companies had to start to integrate this, whether they liked it or not. And so BPI Sports is a big supplement company, but they were only brick and mortar at the time that I started working with them. So it was really cool that I was able to go inside and have a whole 360 model and tie it to revenue. So it was basically like I had a blank canvas and I could go test what I wanted to test. And this is really important, that to have each of these aspects in whatever you're trying to do. I would say it's important to have consistent faces if you have the budget, right? There's no cookie cutter format for influencer marketing, and if anybody tells you differently, they're fucking lying to you and it's bullshit. So If anything I can help on, and like, please ask me questions after, I'm happy to guide you. But it's important to have your traditional faces that people are seeing constantly within there, right? It's super important that James was the co-founder of BPI Sports, right? I said, James, we're spending all this other money on other people. At the end of the day, the more people can resonate with you, the more that they're gonna resonate with your brand, right? So we took about 25% of the budget and started investing in James's YouTube channel. And now I think, I don't know, he close has probably like 500,000 subscribers on YouTube and does personal videos. But what I underestimated was our ambassador program and this aspect of community. Like, at the end of the day, people love free shit, right? And they'll do a lot for free stuff. Like, you understand? Like, they just want this sense of feeling that they actually belong to somewhere. It's kind of the same theory of, like, people who are diehard sports fans that have nothing to connect to. That really makes them feel like they're a part of something, right? So when we launched this ambassador program, we really only gave, I think it was like a 10 to 20% discount. And that ended up growing us equally, if not more, in sales than what we were doing with the paid influencer athletes. And ultimately, the ripple effect of doing all that is you're organically driving your social growth, which ultimately leads to sale of the company. You know, and I would say the space has changed more. I don't know if I would integrate this same strategy today as we did back in 2019. And then ultimately, it led to Sprint. So I ended up going, and it was really fun. I kind of got to mess with a Fortune 100 company, and I've always been like a startup guy. I'm like the opposite of a person that conforms. If you ever hang out with me, you'll know I'm just like, I don't know. If you tell me what to do, I'll probably do the opposite, but we don't have to talk about that now. But anyway, Sprint was awesome. I worked directly with Marcelo Claire, and I could see that they were wasting a lot of these big brands. They don't actually do anything in-house, as you'll learn. All their money goes to the agencies. The fact for them to even fight for a small amount of capital to invest in themselves is pretty crazy. They just go like meeting to meeting to meeting, and they just check boxes. So they gave me $10,000 as a test to show them what I can do, right? And so I took 10 influencers at $1,000 of guys who are on the rise, and I showed them, look, you need to incentivize, you need to entertain, and you have product placement, and that will lead to the sell without actually doing it. So if you look at that case study, I mean, Spence only had close to 400,000 followers. We got 400,000 views on the thing. It was one of the first organic, like, implemented ads that we did, and it outperformed somebody like Nash Greer, who had 11 million followers, 290,000 views, and I think and I think the cost that was him was, I think that number was like right around like 225, right? And I would say the same thing applies today. If I'm looking at people who to target, depending on what your market is and what company you're going for, the people that are the most, like the 1 to 50,000 is the only people that I would touch now. Like, they're super highly engaged, they're motivated. You want to find these people that are on the rise that don't have an ego like tied to them. A lot that you'll find in the space is a lot of them are egomaniacs, especially the younger that they are. So if you can really look at the slow growth of the person and someone that you can build a long-term relationship with, right? Like, so much of what we can see now related to content is that we can just call out BS. So after I proved to them how much money they wasted paying them, I had a bright idea to take a helicopter and a trampoline, and we put it over the Pacific Ocean with Jake Paul. And this is before Jake Paul was like on the rise, right? And ended up being Sprint's most viral video. I'm pretty sure that I broke like 14 corporate policies. And so I remember I was in Kansas City and I got called into Marcelo's office, and like everyone was sitting around, and he looks at me and he was like, "Don't do that again, but I need you to do that again." And I was like, "Okay, Marcelo, I can do that." So that ultimately launched Sprint's Live Unlimited program, where it was the first time that we combined traditional artists like Prince Royce, and we brought in like Lele Pons and Bradley Martin and a few others, and launched it. And as you can see from the feedback, I mean, obviously their CMO gets all the credit and I don't get any as a consultant, but that was 100% me. So it was pretty cool. I was pretty proud of that moment. You know, and from then, as I talk about, to me, this is kind of the triangle of brand magic, right? Like, You're aligning your traditional and your digital. You're focusing on these organic ambassador programs. Have your brand alignment of people that coincide with the same values of what you're doing. Incentivize the consumer. I mean, there's so much noise out there right now, but the smallest stuff that you can do, that you can give away, it works. And try to find the person that's on the rise. Like, it's so different than when I started with those 8 guys. Like, unfortunately, the new American dream is for everybody to be an influencer, right? So you have plenty of people to pick from. It's really being specific about what you're building and how you're doing it. All right, so now, like, where is it going? It kind of just brings you to the present moment. Okay, VTubers. How many are you familiar with VTubers? Raise your hand. Okay, only a couple. The first time I heard what a VTuber, I was like, what the fuck is this and how does this possibly work? But I can tell you right now, this is the highest engaged audience on the internet in terms of what you're gonna get from anything that you're trying to sell to convert. People will say, like, esports are pretty high in terms of, I would say, what you get in terms of metrics of people watching them, but they don't convert. There's a lot of struggle in the esports space around brand marketing because it doesn't correlate to sales and nobody can figure out why. But these VTubers is really interesting. So what is a VTuber? It's essentially somebody that makes a digital character of themselves. There's certain tools on the internet, probably cost like $4 to $5 grand, that basically you can make yourself a digital avatar. And for some reason, they're exploding. So you ask why? Well, why? The YouTuber likes it in the sense where they feel like they can be a more authentic version of themselves, which I understand. On the other side of it, you can see where they can actually say that they can be somebody completely that's not themselves. I'm like, okay. Their other point on it is that they can actually feel like they can have privacy outside in their real life. And for the consumer side, it leaves this level of mysterious with somehow that we're all somehow interested in, right? Like you can see that with Marshmello as a DJ, with the Masked Singer. There's something about the mystery of these people that's really fascinating. And people just want to know why. And they can't figure out if that's really them behind them, is this alter ego, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, for some reason, these people convert. If I was going to invest any money into this space right now, I would build my own digital character, I would launch my channel, and you could talk about whatever, and I guarantee that you will get some traction. And the cool part about it, as the creator, at the end of the day, you're essentially building a brand of this character that you could turn into other things if you want, and say you're done and you don't feel like you're doing anymore, you can convert somebody else or sell off the channel, and nobody would know that it's not that person there. So I definitely recommend spending 10, 15 minutes if you get time to look up VTubers, but it's where it's going. It's an interesting world we're in. The second, I would say, like, really, like, obviously we all know the NFT market has faded, and Web3 really not at mass market consumer adoption. But what I would say came out of there that was really, really important is this whole new aspect of community to consumer. And I really like this in the sense where, like, it's the same thing if you're getting your early adopters on like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, right? I had a project, it was called the Cool Box. We ended up raising $440,000 on Indiegogo, and then that was the product ultimately that, like, we made a deal on Shark Tank, right? Like, we were able to get outside funding for that project if we wanted, but we consciously chose to build a community to make everyone feel included, right? So the more people feel like they're a part of something at the beginning that can feel included is one thing, but also if you give them the ability to grow with you and be compensated for that, I highly recommend it. So, like, with Effect Change, once the network TV show comes out, all of our digital content is focused on, I have this community of like 200 to 250 people. They're all in like the 50 to 100,000 mark. We're all doing something positive in the world, whether it's mind, body, spirit. There's really no thing. Basically anybody that's just putting out related positive content. And it's just a way to bring people together. So I really, if you could figure out a way to include community in what you're working on or what you're building with your existing brand, only good things can happen. The last thing is kind of what I touched on like earlier, you know, like rather than spending money on somebody else trying to grow your brand, I would heavily invest in yourself. This is an example of Jay Walsh, one of my really good friends, real estate guy for a really long time. And James Tahan who's speaking later, who has the agency that Jay went through. He went from 0 followers within a year to 105,000. Now he's a full-time coach. He gets deals through his DMs. He literally said it was the best decision he'd ever made. But the key with that is you have to be consistent on it. Like, I know people will say it's cliche, but like, you consistently have to post. It is the combination of organic and paid to get the funnel going. You know, like if you do it the right way, like you will see results and grow. And ultimately, at the end of the day, like I know everyone hates this word, but like authenticity is the most important thing in terms of content and who you're picking. It's insanely cliche, but you know, my example of this is there's something about this generation that's grown up now with seeing so much content that they can call bullshit. And we've just been so much lied to in traditional media over all time. Everyone's always on the lookout and everyone's really jaded, right? So it's almost a game where people can call out if people really are being bullshit. It's gonna turn it off. Like the number one thing you can do is to be yourself. And you can even see it like in this space right now where there's this whole new wave of like giving influencers, right? But there's a level that just like still doesn't feel authentic. Like I'll give you an example. This guy, Charlie Rocket, where like he'll go out, give $10,000 to somebody. It's a one-time thing. It's like a whole spectacle. But then like he doesn't follow up these people. He doesn't stay friends with them. He doesn't. There's just this level of exposure rather than authentic that like really sits like wrong with me. And that's ultimately why Creative Effect Change. It's an unscripted television show where we take celebrities, we pick a person that's never had the breakthrough in their life, and we give them the resources to build that. But it doesn't stick with just the resources. We also give them coaching, mentoring. We give them all the ability to maintain the vibration in order to be successful. So to end with it, I hope you can get a feel of what authentic content looks like. And I'm gonna show you guys our trailer. You know, we won Best New TV Show at the Mammoth Film Festival, which was awesome. And the thing is, like, I knew nothing about TV going into TV, but I think that it worked because I was just coming in with a blank canvas of just genuinely wanting to help people, and I hope that replicates in my storytelling. So I hope you enjoy the 4 minutes, and I'm here all day. If you guys have any questions about anything that you're working on, I'm happy to guide you or point you in the right direction. If I'm not the guy, I generally know somebody that can help you. So thank you.